I'd like to welcome you all here this afternoon to the formal launch of the European end of the Think Global Forum initiative. To date, this will be our fifth Think Global Forum, and it has crossed a variety of industry verticals, and we've had a huge degree of diversity in terms of the size of the organizations and the industries and so on. We've had from Toyota to VMware, from Expedia to Skift. We've had life sciences, everything. We've had major global players to one-man startups. And that variety of opinions and perspectives has been enlightening and a very, it has informed the debate at these forums, and we think the variety is extremely important. So, where did the idea of the Think Global Forums come from, or how did we arrive at this? Our industry, or the space that Vistatec plays in, gives us a unique perspective on the globalization journey for people. Anybody that wants to go global, doesn't matter what it is, from if you're making cupcakes to cranes, right? The language bit, okay, the linguistic solution, you can't avoid it. It is the key part. It's the foundation of your journey. Now, when you look at that, or if you accept that, there is commonality in people's experience across any of those industries. And when we looked at that, the outstanding common feature was the level of change, right? And not just in a conventional sense in terms of the number of languages, the number of words, okay? It's other stuff too. It's the industry getting turned on its head. Back in the day, you guys provided us with content, we localized it, we gave it back to you, you gave it to your consumers, okay? Now we have a scenario where your consumers give you the content and it comes back to us. So you've had your industry turned completely on your head. And that's before we even consider how data gets consumed, who consumes it, and the volumes, etc. So I think you'd have to accept that within this area of globalization, there is a huge amount of change. But how is that change reviewed, defined, discussed, guided? Now, when we looked at this, there are a wide variety of forums out there within the globalization industry. There's technical, there's linguistic, there's project management, and so on and so forth. But in terms of what we loosely call thought leadership, there aren't that many forums out there where that can be reviewed. So that was the genesis of the idea. So we looked at it, we said, okay, how are we going to get involved in this? So we said, okay, a forum across the industry verticals where the major players can come together and at the very least define the challenges that are in front of them and the developments that they see coming down the track, and perhaps guide the future solutions for the industry. Now, all we can do is facilitate that. Now, we all know that no matter what people want to do or what's decided or discussed in these forums, ultimately, the proof will be whether the market likes it or not, okay? It'll live or die by whether the market will buy it or not. Now, if that's the case, okay, for the travel vertical, the people in this room, are a large part of the market. Right? You are the influential people within the travel vertical, or a large portion of it. So if that's the case, we thought this is the place to start the conversation. Hence the genesis of the Think Global Forums. Now, to date, the appetite for the forums has been hugely positive, and the connections made during these forums have endured after them, and we are very, very happy about that. And we expect to see the number of forums growing and developing beyond the verticals approach that we currently have. So if you like, that's where the idea and the concept of the Think Global Forums came from. And we are very happy as an organization to facilitate that. So if you'll bear with me a little bit now, I might tell you a little bit about Vistatec, short. As some of you may know, Vistatec had a very significant birthday this year. We were 20 years old. Now, in the context of the level of change in the industry that I referred to earlier, 20 years is a hell of an achievement and something that I and the organization are extremely proud of. Now, at those kind of milestone events, questions come up about what was different about Vistatec, how did we survive, how did we thrive, what were the key drivers for the organization. And those sort of questions can be very difficult to answer. It requires a level of navel gazing, I think, that most people aren't that comfortable with, and certainly we weren't. You have to kind of focus on what was important to you as an organization and as a leadership team. And when we did that, there were three key things that were important to Vistatec, okay? And they were around technology, people, and relationships. Technology for us is nothing more than a tool to help our customers achieve their aims. It is not an end in itself. That's all it is, right? And we will stick to that principle and we won't waver from it. Whatever the technology is, we don't mind where it comes from, who wrote it, or how it gets used. If it helps our customers achieve their aims, we're happy to use it. The other area was around relationships. Relationships in terms of anyone that interacts with our organization. Customers, staff, anybody, doesn't matter. If you interact with Vistatec, it is absolutely important to me that people leave that interaction feeling that they have dealt with a professional and efficient group of people who will answer your question with integrity, right? You might not like the answer, but you'll get the one that we think is right, and that is really important. And if you build your relationships on the basis of that level of integrity, hopefully you get longevity, and following on from that, profitability, which may sound a little bit of a dirty word, but it is important. The third piece is people. This is ultimately a people business. Regardless of the level of process and technology, there is going to be a person somewhere in that process. If you have the right people in the right places, you can achieve great things. And in my view, Vistatec has certainly done that. From a small company off the edge of Europe, we have built a global player who has a list of customers of probably some of the most iconic brands around the world. And we are extremely proud of that. So that's a little bit about Vistatec and the forums. I'm going to stop now and hand you over to Aoife. I hope that you find this afternoon informative, and I hope that you leave here with a little bit more information and perhaps a few more connections. Thank you very much.